You are listening to She Rebel Radio. I'm Lulu Minns.
And I'm Mary Lobo. Today we are talking about shifting from armour to authenticity, and you can download Lulu's free toolkit that goes along with this series.
Get your heavy armour on, ladies, and let's go out onto the battlefield together. The world can be a really harsh place, so we need our defences up and our protective clothing on. Mary, being my authentic self today, I'm full of cold and wondering how I'm going to get through this episode. How are you?
Oh, you poor thing. I'm okay. I don't have a cold, but I have just been faffing around online trying to check in with EasyJet because I'm going to Berlin tomorrow just to go and see a Christmas market. But the whole process I just find just so discombobulating. And the fact is that you then go and check in and then you have to pay for your seats. And it just annoys me. I just don't want to have to configure everything. I don't want to have to do everything myself. I just want to buy something, that be the price, and then I get what I paid for. But that seems to be too big of an ask these days.
Yeah, it's not authentic of a lot of these companies, but
No.
what is authentic about it is that you're going to Berlin for Christmas, and it was Germany who brought the Christmas tree over to the UK. Prince Albert, who was married to Queen Victoria, I believe.
I didn't know that. I know that the Victorians, what I believe they brought in a lot of Christmas traditions, like the Christmas card. But I didn't realize that that was when the tree came, and that prior to that, we didn't have trees, did we? We didn't have
No,
Christmas trees.
no, we didn't. And now you need to sell your house to send 100 Christmas cards. But you know how times have changed.
Yeah, and also don't even start me on the cost of the trees themselves. Like, I'm not going to tell you how much my parents paid for their tree, but we're going three digits is all I'm going to say.
Oh my God, that's
Yeah.
crazy. Well, I just decided to go for a beauty advent calendar this year instead.
Same, I got one of those. I'm not doing a tree. I mean, I do love them and I love all the effort that everyone goes to, but yeah, I can't be bothered.
No, me neither. Now, let's talk about armor, which is defensive covering for the body. It's
Mm.
reinforced, rigid, and protective, designed to prevent injury and protect us from outside sources. Now, you might need some going on a flight in December so you don't pick up something awful like I've had, although I didn't get it on a flight. But what clothing do you use to armor up?
Well, definitely throughout the winter, pretty much from October onwards until March, I have a scarf on permanently because, as you know, I used to live in France, and in France, all the women, all the French women, and actually a lot of the men, all wear scarves around their necks to stop getting sore throats and colds during the winter. And they wear them all the time in like indoors, not big woolly ones, but you know, like cotton scarves and things that you wrap around your neck. So, yeah, that is my armor, and I've got one on now.
Yeah, and I do love autumn for that in terms of the armor that we can wear. Like I love big coats, scarves, boots, and
Yeah.
all the stuff that we use to protect ourselves from, the winter, the cold elements.
Yeah, I love that. I love all the layering and like like you said, the tights, the boots, and it does just feel like you do feel like you're sort of armored up, don't you?
Yeah, 100%. And, we were talking about gladiators last week. We were
Mm.
talking about competition to collaboration. Not only did I find, the 90s program Gladiator podcast called Glad Pod or Pod Glad Pod, which I listened to for about 2 minutes, by the way, but it was just about spotting the gladiators like in the supermarket. I got bored.
That's brilliant. I mean, they'll do a podcast on anything these days.
They will, but I was started looking at the armor of original gladiators, and apparently they didn't actually wear much because it was considered masculine to bare their chests for all to see. And I wondered if that was something that you knew, and it was kind of later like royal and military and stuff where, more protective armor came in.
Yeah, because I thought they had chest plates, but maybe not. They have the uh, shoulder pads, which I don't really know what they're going to do to protect you, to be fair. But I remember they've got like the shoulder bits, and yeah, I thought sometimes they had chest plates. I didn't know they had completely bare chests.
Yeah, I think originally it might have been the shoulder plates, bare chests, and then, more became built around it. But I don't think Russell Crowe does that in the movie, The Gladiators. And I think the second one's out at the moment. But yeah, it used to be all about the pecs.
Oh yeah. Well, I guess as well that that would show the masculinity, wouldn't it? It's almost like a fearless exposing the chest,
And like the size, like the sheer size of, you know,
the
um,
pectorials.
yeah, 100%. So, shifting the narrative, ladies, we're just painting a picture for you as to, when we armor up, what that can look like or feel like. And Brené Brown said, when we're growing up, we learn to armor ourselves to create a mask, if you like, up against feeling too exposed, uncertain, or vulnerable. And it's something that I noticed myself doing in the last couple of years, the legal profession. I was a litigator. I would go up to court and I felt this like shift in my energy, and like I was putting imaginary armor on. And I wondered, Mary, where in your life you felt the need to armor up, and were you aware of it at the time?
Yeah, I was aware of it, and definitely when I was working in London, working in television, I felt every day that I had to go in and I had to put my game face on and I had to behave in a certain way to be accepted and to feel that I was sort of worthy of my place there and also protect my place, um, so that someone didn't come and take my job. So yeah, that was a time that I felt that. And I even remember, getting the part, when you get a pass out and you sort of, scan to go in, that taking a deep breath and being like, right,
Mhm.
sort of that moment where you're shifting, you're turning on. I was very aware of that.
Yeah, yeah. And mine often was, walking up to court and I'd go through security. So, before I went through that door of security, which I was friendly with, them because I was there all the time. We'd have a good laugh about, me trying to hide my dictaphone in my files because technically you can't take them in a courtroom and all of those kind of stuff. But yeah, again, game face is a good description. And you think even the way we dress in a lot of those environments, I remember I didn't feel like I was fully armored up or ready for court unless I had high heels on, which now I can't wear high heels. And occasionally I'd get caught at the police station by colleagues in my flats and they'd be like, "Oh, you're much littler than I thought you were." And I'm 5'6". I'm not, I'm very average height. I'm not tall and I'm not short, but I felt really tiny. And they build up in the custody suites, like where the sergeants are, the custody sergeants, it's really high up, as in a courtroom, the judges are high up. So if you
Mm.
haven't got your high heels on, you feel kind of tiny and like you can be more easily intimidated.
Yeah, and that's interesting, isn't it? That small shift of like adding an inch or two. I don't know how high your heels were, but you know what I mean? Just like
Yeah.
adding a couple of inches and you're just like, right, I feel like I'm now the right height to be part of this.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. But that armor not only can give you bunions by the way of
Mm.
high heels, it can
Mm.
get really heavy and weigh us down. And, it can prevent us from letting in the things that we want.
Yeah,
Now,
absolutely.
yeah, how do you think we can remember, to take it down, to, take off? I'm talking about this imaginary armor here, and or find the safe spaces with which that we can be more authentic and have less of that armor on.
Yeah, well, I think that in some cases you can't avoid it. You need the armor, and it could be for dealing with certain people, like you said. If you're dealing with criminals or whatever, then you've got to, I guess, be prepared for whatever is going to happen. You might have people that are angry with you, people that are frustrated about their situation, um, people that put a lot of pressure on you, and so you're having to, in certain situations, you're going to have to present in a certain way to protect yourself, but also to protect your boundaries. Um, and then I guess it would be around that, being sure that you can come down from that and step away from it. And in your personal life, maybe having more space to not have to have that armor up. But it'd be wonderful if we didn't have to have it at all. But I think that as a woman, it's necessary in a lot of circumstances that we can find ourselves in.
Yeah, and a lot of those more male dominated environments, courtrooms, journalism, all of that
Mm.
are kind of set up in that almost way of a chessboard, right? Where there's two sides, they're against each other. Courtrooms are a really good example. You see the queen toppled over, and you have to accept when you're on a battlefield that you may need a different, stronger version of you within
Mm.
that. But yeah, finding those safe spaces, and that's why I think spaces and a big part of my inspiration of creating retreats for women was to have those softer spaces where we could really share from a deeper space and take that armor off.
Yeah, that's what's really nice, like having support groups, having friends, you know, finding that softness, you know, on your own terms. Because so much of what we do in our lives isn't on our own terms. We're not allowed to have it on our own terms. I think as women, particularly. So to then cultivate that elsewhere is really important.
Yeah, 100%. Now, authenticity is the quality of being genuine or real rather
Mm.
than those fakes. Have you bought any fakes recently?
No, I haven't. I haven't bought any fakes, but I've seen some good fakes, and I'm not adverse to a nice fake Chanel handbag. But I tell you what, I someone gave me a fake Chanel handbag, which was so spot on. Like, I mean, you wouldn't be able to tell them apart. And I got it stolen. Stole it from me because they thought it was real.
Oh no, God,
So
karma
you've got
can
to
be
be
a bitch,
careful.
can't it?
I know, that's why you've got to be really careful.
You have. The one thing that I wouldn't buy, because my mum bought it for me years ago, she bought me a fake Chanel perfume on eBay or whatever, and it definitely wasn't real. And I worry what bloody chemicals were in there as well.
No, I've always worried about that. You know, sometimes, you know, people are sometimes sell them from market stalls. And I always think, and sometimes they smell amazing. Like they smell good, but I think to myself, oh no, I'm a bit too scared about putting the chemicals on my skin.
Yeah, although Eden do all the top perfumes, I've got their Chanel number 5 at the moment, and it's amazing, and it's vegan, and they're refillable and better for the environment. So that is
Yeah.
a great business
Yeah.
actually of creating fakes and doing it well.
Yeah, because it's they actually use good ingredients, don't they?
Yeah, no, 100%. And they fit into that sustainability and all of those things that the larger, more known perfume brands don't really care about.
Yeah, and as well, they've got a good price point, right? That I mean, you shouldn't have to be paying 150 quid for perfume. Um, so, and I think that's the appeal. Not only does it smell good, but it's actually a good price point. Like you can buy a small one, can't you, for like 20 quid or something?
Yeah, 15 quid. And you can
Mm.
get them refilled. Yeah, which is great. But I tried two now, and the Chanel number 5 one was better than my Montguerlain because it didn't last as long.
Oh, interesting. I have to go back to Eden. I haven't been there in ages. But yeah, in some cases, I do agree with you. You can get a good fake, but the things I'd say you can't ever go fake on are cheese and friends.
Yeah, friends are an important one. And you can have fake cheese if you like having a burger slice or something.
I know, but it's just you're better with a cheddar.
Yeah, we're not 5 anymore. It's got to be accepted. But taking our authenticity to a deeper level, Maya Angelou has a beautiful quote, which is the ultimate goal, really, where a woman in harmony with her spirit is like a river flowing. She goes where she will without pretense and arrives at her destination prepared to be herself and only herself.
I love that. That's beautiful. And I wish that I could be that flowing river all the time. I will aspire to that. That's a lovely quote.
Yeah, and it's life's practice, really, isn't it? To find
Mm.
those spaces where we can be ourselves and only ourselves, and then find more of them.
Absolutely. And quite often you do that with the people that you meet, because they bring that out of you. If you're lucky enough to meet some great people, they will bring that out of you and they'll help you on that journey.
Yeah, and you're meeting each other on that authentic level. And yeah, I
Yeah.
think as we get older, we learn to identify that quicker and quicker.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, you know, just immediately, don't you? And sometimes it's incredible. You can meet someone and you just, there's that click and you're like, oh, this person gets me. And it's, I guess that's would be like the river flowing, your rivers, you're flowing at the same time. You're in sort of harmony with each other.
Yeah, and I feel like a real sign of that is when you see those people and you're like, oh my God, I didn't even tell them this because you're so busy flowing, talking about everything and anything that you've forgotten to tell them some of the stuff that before you saw them, you thought, I must say.
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. And it's just being in, yeah, alignment, basically.
Yeah.
It's a alignment with yourself and with another person, which is great. And which is, it'd be great if we could do that across the board, you know, in your work, in your personal life. But unfortunately, um, it's so hard, isn't it, in your professional life to always be aligned, especially if you're working for a corporate.
Yeah, yeah. It's not so much when you're running a business because
Yeah.
you can really pick, but then you've got to be more bold within that, which,
Mm.
can be difficult to do as well. So I'm going to ask you this question because I love asking everyone this question because I think it gives you a real insight to who we are and what is authentic to us. That if someone had to play you in a film of your life, who would catch the spirit of your authentic self?
I think I would have to say Kate Winslet because I absolutely love her. When I was younger, people used to say that I looked a bit like her. Um, and I just don't, I love her because she just seems so genuine. And even though she has obviously had a great career, a glittering career and Hollywood lifestyle, she does seem that sort of really down to earth English girl that you can have a cup of tea with and a piece of cake. Do you know what I mean? And have a good natter. She comes across like that.
Yeah, 100%. And her latest role was playing Lee Miller in the film Lee. Have you seen it?
No, I haven't, and it's on my list. But yeah, I heard she was brilliant in that.
Yeah, she was amazing. The film was 9 years in the making. Lee Miller is a massive idol of mine. I had her granddaughter on She Rebel Radio back in 2021 or something. And I watched Kate, and I was, in the algorithms for the film. So Kate at the premiere was asked by a journalist what the last photo on her phone was. And do you know what she said?
No.
She said it was of her toe because she had arthritis and she had to send it to her doctor, which I just loved that.
Right, let's you tell me what your last picture was, and I'll tell you what mine was.
Oh my God, that's okay. Yeah, let's have a look. I'm hoping mine's not something really weird now.
Hang on, let me look at
Picture
mine.
and not video, right?
Yeah, picture and not video. Let me have a look. Where's mine? Right.
Mine, I'm going to take the She Rebel radio stuff out of it because that would be really boring. Mine is of Otis, my 17-year-old cat, sitting on my Moroccan
Oh,
blue hoof. And he's
oh,
looking, he's
oh,
looking his age there, bless him.
it's gorgeous. Mine is I have taken a photo of the dimensions of a small underseat cabin bag on EasyJet
I
because I
love
have got a measure. Sorry, my rucksack and see if it fits into those dimensions. Because I also think they've changed the dimensions. Don't get me started.
Yeah, I'm sure it will. I mean, my friend that I traveled to Morocco with, she had the largest possible bag that you could stick in that space, and it was quite big. So hopefully that puts you in a bit more trust. So 100%. Now, who would play me in the film of my life would be Goldie Hawn.
Oh, I love her. And actually, I can see that.
Thanks. So someone else has said to me before, well, you're not as old as she is. And I'm like, that's not the damn point. But I love her sense of humor, which is absolutely one of my values. And it's something that I've realized, particularly in the last couple of years, we've had difficult time family wise, with health issues and stuff. And how much my parents keep their sense of humor, I realize I've grown up in a real environment where that playfulness and sense of humor is really important to us all.
God, absolutely. That's what gets us through. I mean, really, when I think about it, when I look back on my life and like all the things I've worried about that haven't come to fruition, or the things that I have, um, that I haven't worried about, I haven't even thought about, and have, bitten me on the backside, I just think, yeah, I mean, we just got to laugh about so much stuff because it is insane. Like when you think we went into a lockdown, I mean, it just is.
Mm.
If I said that to you 8 years ago, you'd have been like, what? That's not even possible. So, yeah, we have to like laugh about all these things because that's the only thing that gets us through.
Yeah, 100% it is. And also with Goldie, I love that she's really not conventional. She doesn't follow the status quo. Her and Kirk Russell have been one of the longest Hollywood
Mm.
relationships, and she's never given in to the, traditional agreement of marriage. She said instead, we choose each other every day, and
Oh
that's how
God,
we
that's
live.
brilliant. That's fantastic. And they actually seem genuinely happy.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, they really do. There's none of this fake, because there's other more celebrity relationships. Like I've heard through the grapevine, I don't know if this is true, that like David Beckham and Victoria don't have a real relationship, that it is all business.
Oh yeah, that's totally true. I mean, I've heard that. It's just Brown Beckham, isn't it?
Yeah. And someone was like, well, no. And I was like, well, think about it. If they split up, that would be like against this massive corporate brand that they now have.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like to question other people's relationships purely because I just don't want anyone to question mine. But definitely, I would say there is a fair few showmances that go on because, oh God, are we going to get into this? But what about Will Smith?
Mm,
About him
yeah.
and his wife, that they weren't together for years and years and years and years and years, and they
Yeah.
just pretended that they were. And you'd never know by the fact, when they went to all their premieres and stuff.
No. And now you even have it spilling out on, reality shows like Married at First Sight, which is a dreadful show, but I do get addicted to it. But originally you had really normal people on there, and now they all just want fame. They're not there authentically wanting to meet a relation, meet that person. They're more interested in their Instagram followers and the brand that they can create on top of it.
Yeah, when at the very beginning of the first season, those people really wanted to get married.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was they were committing themselves to it. But now, like you said, it's not even about that. It's just about like, what can I get from this?
Yeah, yeah, and it ruins the whole thing. Now, do you think social media encourages more authenticity, or is it something, for people to hide behind? And, on that note as well, lots of large corporates are now trying to align themselves with smaller brands or influencers, aren't they, to enhance their authenticity?
Yeah, I think that's it's really difficult because when people are trying to be authentic in inverted commas on social media, I often think it looks really staged when they're
Mm.
trying to like comment on something or virtue signal or be like, look at me, look at this, good deed I've done. Um, I don't know, can you be on social media and be authentic? That's a good question. Really,
Yeah,
can you?
I know. I don't know. Lots of people say I am. I hope I am. But I feel like there's been, and we've had this conversation before on She Rebel. I don't overshare, and
Yeah.
it's also, but I'd probably get more algorithms if I did. But I think people get mixed up with this authenticity versus vulnerability,
Yeah.
and the amazing work of Brené Brown. But, now people share absolutely everything in the name of authenticity. But for me, it makes me uncomfortable. I don't want to know more about that person when I've never even met them before.
Yeah, and some people feel that they need to, also share all their traumas. Like as soon as there's like a health issue, they're on there like, I've got this, I've got that. And I guess it does help a lot of other people because, some people will be looking for that kind of content, but you think, are you doing this because you're trying to help people? Are you doing this to grow your brand? I don't know. I'm very conflicted with it. Um,
Or is it an addiction to the algorithm? I saw someone doing that on Facebook the other day, which I need to delete again. But literally, I've been taking an ambulance. They're taking a photo in the ambulance of the wires and the blah blah. And I'm like, Jesus, like, give yourself a second.
I know, that's what I mean. Do you not think it's all a bit much? I mean, how people just they want to take everyone on the journey with them. But then I guess if that's what you've done, if you're a celebrity, why
But
would
what about
you?
people that aren't?
Yeah, because they're trying to become celebrities.
Mm.
And there's so much stuff as well. Have you seen all this sort of couple content that goes on
No.
social media where people are like pranking each other and they're like couples that do little tricks on each other and they're trying to and they're kind of growing the brand about like how fun and silly and daft and who can do like the biggest sort of pranks on each other and oh, this is what our home life is like all the time, jokes kind of thing. And I just think it's all so staged and it's just but they're getting huge followings, just for doing that.
Yeah, it's bonkers. It's bonkers, isn't it? Now, Florence Given, the author and influencer, she wrote Women Don't Owe You Pretty. Do you know the book?
Yes, I haven't read it, but I know the cover. I've seen it everywhere.
Yeah, because it was an impactful cover, wasn't it? And I picked up in a shop a couple of times. I mean, she's only 26 now, and I'm sure it's really valuable content, but there was an element of it being quite juvenile that I was like, oh, interesting. But and she's sharing amazing ideas on feminism stuff. But just I follow her on Instagram because I find it really interesting and her brand quite authentic. But when I was doing a bit of research about it, she's been criticised for that book. I don't know if that's something you've heard about.
No, I haven't, but when you tell me something interesting, I've just got to quickly go and look it up.
I'm gonna look it up.
Um,
Well, there's
yeah.
another influencer, a black woman called Chidera Eguru. I might have pronounced that wrong. I apologize if I have it. I have. She founded the Saggy Boobs Matter movement. Um, but she's basically accused Given of imitating her work and using the ideas of black women to generate wealth for herself because she created a book, I think it was 2 years before, that's very similar looking and had
Really?
these are two women that are connected, right? So, and to be fair to Florence, she had commented that she couldn't have written the book alone, and black women influenced her narrative, and things like that. But being a white woman, she has hit the ground running with it.
That
And
is so interesting. Yeah, I'm looking up now. Mm,
yeah, and then on the flip side, something I was reading about it, someone said, well, they're arguing about coffee table books. Like neither of them created like visual kind of books, right? That it's all
yeah,
something's always existed before. So I could really see two sides, but it's not the first time we've seen this, where black women create something and either a white woman or more traditionally a white man takes the idea, and gets all the credit and the kudos for it. And
yeah,
also, when I was researching, a
yeah.
woman actually created Monopoly.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. I was doing my homework, reading Think and Grow Rich by Women, and it was a woman called Elizabeth Maggie. I mean, she called it landlord something, and it was actually about, the awfulness of land ownership. And two guys took the idea, they ran with it, and then they bought the patent off her for her game for like 500 quid or something like that. She created it in 1904. So we've seen, men stealing women's ideas, um,
Mm,
men and white women stealing black women's ideas or black
yeah.
men's ideas. And it's, yeah, it feeds into that privilege, but just wonder where, that lack of authenticity, and genuineness really feeds in.
Well, I wouldn't even be able to do that. Jim doing something and then sort of taking credit for something that wasn't your own. I just couldn't do that. But we've spoken about that, haven't we? We've spoken about people
Yeah.
taking some of our ideas, or we've created a business and someone goes and tries and duplicates something, and it's just like, what? It's crazy. And it's people that you know or that you've worked with in some capacity. Um, but the other thing is people say all ideas are free. Like just because you have an idea doesn't mean that someone else can't do it and can't do it better. But it's when people are duplicating your method, I suppose, is what we're talking about here.
Yeah. And, ideas, we all get our ideas from somewhere. Nothing is completely unique. Whoever first created a podcast, for example, the next person's, it's got to come from somewhere, hasn't it? And I think what feeds into this as well is when we talk about the roles of privilege, it is much easier to do that when you're in a certain position.
Yeah, yeah. I'm just sorry. I'm just reading about this, what this controversy that you've just been telling me about. I'm just like, oh my God. Because
Well,
it's gone backwards on social media.
yeah, and what Aguri says, and I can only imagine how frustrating this is is that when you Google her book, Florence Given's comes up first. They've got the same publisher and stuff as well. So
I
that's
know.
got to be, and she sold more copies and all of that kind of stuff. And I don't know if the, content's exactly the same, but yeah, it's just really interesting when we talk about that authenticity and being authentic to our ideas and giving credit where credit's due. Being a copywriter, communication is your zone of genius. How do you think, we can communicate more authentically?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that, first of all, you need to use your own voice. So the way that you speak, the way that you are, the way that you see the world is your unique print on the world. And so, if you're someone who doesn't use um, loads of sort of long, um, underused words, and you're not that kind of person who speaks in a certain way, then don't write in that way, because that's just not authentic to who you are. You have to sort of have um, your pattern, the pattern that you put into the world, in the way that you speak, in the way that you are, and your energetically, that needs to go onto the page. So it's obviously, it needs to be readable and succinct, and it needs to represent who you are, and the content of how you think. But it also needs to, I should be able to read it and be like, that was written by.
Yeah.
That's really important. And that's like the same, like we're working on a book together, and I am, going through sections and copy editing sections to make it more succinct. But I'm all the time trying to keep your sentiments, your language, your pattern,
Mm.
and just make it more easily understandable.
Yeah, more digestible. I used to say that to defendants when they were giving evidence in court. Literally they go, "Oh, should I wear a suit, or should I do this, or should I do that?" And I was like, just do you, because if you wouldn't normally wear a suit and you wouldn't normally, you know, be like that, I don't want you to do that when you go into the dock, because people see straight through it.
That's really interesting. But then would someone judge you if you're not wearing a suit?
But I think you've just got to show up as you are. If you normally wear jogging bottoms and things like that, then go ahead and do that. I don't think it's any sign of disrespect. It's you being yourself. And I'd much prefer that than someone trying to be something that they're not.
Yeah, yeah, that's it. That's really interesting, isn't it? Because we think we have to show up in one way, but maybe if we show up in as ourselves, that's enough.
Yeah, 100%. Now, before the audience goes, don't forget to download the journaling toolkit that goes right along with this series. And
Mm.
we're going to share with you 2 journaling tools. Mary, do you want to go first?
Okay, so this week I'll be the woman who lets go of armor, and I'm going to do this and I'm not going to do it by removing my lovely neck scarf, which is which I live with until March. I'm going to do it by being consciously aware of when I step into other situations, or situations that are outside of my comfort zone, being really aware of how I change, if I change, the way I hold myself, if I change the way I speak, and really trying to sort of center back into myself and, you know, make sure that I am being authentic and trying to do that, make that shift to authenticity.
This week, I will be the woman who chooses authenticity. I will do this by taking as much time off at Christmas as I feel I need, and not getting out there and posting on social media or beating the pavement if I feel I don't want to.
No, nor should you. Sit at home with a mulled wine.
Perfect. It's been amazing to have you on She Rebel, Mary, as always, and to our listeners.
Thank you, Lulu.
You've been listening to She Rebel Radio with me, Lulu Mins.
And me, Mary Lobo. If you enjoyed this episode, we'd love it if you left us a review.
And perhaps you could share this episode with another amazing woman.